In this video, I show how to make a French drain. In this tutorial, I'll be using some perforated pipe. This is 4 inches. Some medium-sized rocks. These are roughly 1 inch diameter or so. And a shovel, as well as some soil separator.
For the first step, I've just mapped out where I want the trench to go. Since this small retaining wall is made out of railroad ties, I'm going to run it along it a little bit. Also, since the deck roof drains right there off to the side, it should collect any water from there. So I'm going to extend out to the front drip line of the deck roof and then run alongside it. And then I'm going to extend out further into the yard to hopefully drain out where it's lower. Since gravity is the only thing causing the water to drain, it's got to always be going lower the further you go. So from the starting point to the drip line of the roof, it's also going to have to be sloping. And then as it runs along the length of the drip line, it's going to have to be sloping downward. And then of course, since the lawn slopes downward anyways, that's not going to be an issue. I'm going to be aiming for about 1/8 of an inch per foot of length to drop. This is what I found recommended looking up online. I'm hoping this is going to be enough slope to encourage drainage. So now that I know where I need to dig, I'm just going to start digging the trench. I'm going to make it about 1 foot deep and then 6 to 8 inches wide. This is all that's needed since this is a small drainage area. With the trench dug, I'm now going to double check that it's sloping downward at all areas. I don't want any humps or valleys because it could be a stoppage for water and it'll collect there.
To check levelness, I put 2 posts starting at one end of the trench going to the other, and then I ran a string line connecting them, and I just held it on with some clamps. To make sure it was level, you could use a line level, which is just a small water level that just hooks onto the string, and then you pull it tight until you get to the correct height at one end, and then it's level. I did not have one, unfortunately, so I had to use an actual long, like 3-foot level, and then I just eyeballed it as well. I would strongly suggest getting a cheap little line level doing this. It would have been much easier that way. Once you have the string level, you then start measuring downward from the string to the bottom of the trench, and then you account for any drop. So again, it's 1 foot of length. It should drop at least 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't have to be exact just because it's mud and you can't measure exactly. What I did is measure about every 3 feet or so, and I put a flag, and then I would measure downward, and it should always be getting deeper and deeper to make sure that it's actually sloping downward. Since my run along the drip line was 18 feet, it was exactly 18 divided by 8, or 2¼ inches drop over that length. And then of course I had about 6 to 8 feet going into the yard, and then I used the same technique. So I put a post on one end and then ran it, the 6 to 8 feet, and then put the string line and then measured again. My advice here is to make sure whatever tool you use to measure into the trench is waterproof, or you at least coat it with some oil or some wax. I used my normal steel square and it did rust afterward and kind of faded. So make sure you use tools that can get wet, or at least prepare for them getting wet.
Once I've assured that it's sloping downward at all areas, I'm going to put down the soil separation fabric. I'm just going to lay it in, and then I'm just going to put a very small layer of gravel just to hold it in and for the pipe to rest on. With the gravel laid, I'm now going to put the pipe in. Since I want the starting point accessible to blow in any water in case it gets clogged later on, I'm going to put it facing up right here at the starting point and then continue on down. I'm going to make a curve right there and then continue along the drip line, and then of course another curve, and then extend into the lawn. With the pipe situated, I'm going to check for drainage angle again just to make sure there's still a constant downward slope.
Since it had just rained and the ground was very soft in the trench, the pipe was initially not level, so I had to add some more gravel underneath it just to make it solid, as well as to check for a more accurate angle.
With the pipe in place now, I'm going to put more gravel along the tops and side of it and fully bury it. I'm only going to put enough gravel to go over to the very top of the pipe. With the gravel laid down, I'm then going to fold the fabric over the top of the gravel completely, wrapping it around.
In my case, the soil separator wasn't wide enough, so with the gravel plus pipe plus more gravel on top of it, when I wrapped it around like a burrito, it wasn't able to fully overlap itself, and I didn't want any silt getting in and clogging it, so I actually put another layer of the soil separator over the top of it just for some more insurance.
With the fabric folded over, I'm now going to put the rest of the gravel over the top of it until it's flush with the ground. I'm not going to use as much gravel at the starting point up until the drip line, just because there's no water directly on it, so I don't have to worry about the soil washing away, and I could reduce the amount of gravel I need. But at the drip line, I definitely want there to be gravel on top for it to distribute the water as it hits it, since it's falling from about 20 feet above it. With that in place, I'm going to bury the exposed gravel.
In general, once the gravel is covered, that's the end for the French drain. In my case, again, like I mentioned previously, since I have to protect the gravel from washing away as well as the dirt from water dripping down from the roof way above, I made sure and went back over it with a thick layer of gravel. That way, once the water hits it, it'll just deflect and splash, but it won't wash anything away, and it'll still diffuse through the gravel into the French drain. For the termination point of the pipe, I filled it with some gravel as well as the surrounding area and directly over the pipe. This is just so the water can still drain, but animals or other debris can't collect at the mouth of the pipe.
With everything in place, I'm now going to sprinkle water over the top of the gravel just to make sure the pipe is draining completely. I'm also going to pour water in at the starting point just to make sure it can make it there as well.
So about a week later, I had my first heavy rain, and this was the first field test of the French drain, and it performed very well. The water dripped directly over to the gravel, but did not wash anything away, and it kept the water into the channel and out of the pipe into the lawn. I noticed right away that the mud was not collecting any of the water, and it immediately dried out afterward. Previously, the area was constantly muddy, so every time I stepped in it, it would collect in my shoes and get everywhere. So this was a very big improvement compared to before the French drain. So in this video, I showed you how to install a French drain, as well as how to put gravel directly beneath the drip line to protect the soil. Thanks for watching.